Your mindset on debt is why you will never be rich. You want to make money, you want to be wealthy, and you actually want to keep it. There are a couple things that you have to do, and you have to make sure that you change your mind about in order to ensure that that happens. In this world, in this society, in the US of A, it is so common to be comfortable with debt to the point where it's actually scary. I always grew up with my mother talking to me about debt. She always talked to me about being careful of debt, to be smart with your money, and all of that stuff. So, getting older, you could imagine my surprise when I saw how comfortable people are with debt, how comfortable you are with debt. And you need to start getting the ick from debt. You need to start feeling the need to get out of debt quickly, to not sit in debt, to choose routes that will keep you debt free. I will say this, when it comes to debt, I do believe that there is a level of debt that is understandable, aka a mortgage. That is understandable. If you are in a very sticky situation where the only answer that you have is to take out a loan, okay. But there are certain things that you are doing that is creating debt unnecessarily. A great example, car payments. You do not have to go and get yourself a brand new car, okay? You don't have to get the car that came out this year. That is not a necessity. Find a car that's used. Find a car that is within your budget instead of going outside of your budget. This goes with credit cards as well. If you know that you cannot pay it back, do not get it. It is not free money, okay? This is money that you have to pay back with interest. And that is what is so dangerous about debt. That is what's so dangerous about getting yourself in that position where you're constantly owing somebody, is because you are usually not paying back anywhere near what you borrowed. It's always so much more. I've seen it where people are paying back like 10 times more than what they even borrowed, sometimes even more because of interest. And when you get comfortable with being in debt, when you look at debt as something that, oh, everybody has debt, debt is just a part of life. No, it's not. No, it's not. I don't know who taught you that. Get rid of that. The mindset surrounding debt leads you to always having to pay someone back, which means every time you get a paycheck, every time you make a sale, every time you get some money, it's always going to somebody else besides you. So at that time, at that moment, it may seem like you're not actually spending that much. It may seem like you don't have that much to pay back, but that is not considering interest. So you are always giving so much of your money away to the point where it's difficult to retain anything. You begin to live paycheck to paycheck. You begin not hitting the goals that you want to hit when it comes to your finances. And you will not become financially free when you are stacked with debt. Why? Because all that money that you would be saving is constantly going to someone else. When you have things that are in your name that you don't have to pay back, because mind you, your car that you have, if you have any payments on that car, if you are just renting the car, however you are doing it with your car, that is not your car. I don't care if you're making $1,000 payments on that thing a month. That is not your car because it's not in your name. You still owe people for that car. And that goes with anything. That goes with a lot of other things if you are making payments on it. Like even with couches, believe it or not, furniture you can make payments on, which is new. But that furniture that you're sitting on all comfy and cozy, that thing is not yours. Okay, you're borrowing it at this point because it's not in your name. You still owe somebody for it. So having things in your name and having money being stacked, that's how you become wealthy. That's how you become financially free. But when you don't have stuff in your name, you're constantly having to pay this person for that, pay this person for that, pay this person for that. You're not stacking any money. You're not creating wealth for yourself. Everything is constantly going out. You are constantly giving money away and in large sums at that. Even when it comes to getting a degree, okay? There are many options for getting a degree without going into debt. Some people make it sound like, oh, I have to go into debt in order to get my degree. No, you don't. I didn't go into debt in order to get my degree. There are so many jobs that offer free degrees. If you just look it up, you can see majority of them are going to be online, which not everybody likes that, But at the end of the day, if you're just there to get the paper and leave, then you've done your job and it's not that big of a deal. But there are so many places, and I'm not even talking about high-end places, okay? There are so many places that you could easily get a job at where they will literally pay for you to get your associates, pay for you to get your bachelor's, pay for you to even get your master's. That one's a little less common, but it is still out there. Bachelor's and associates is the most common though. So if you're looking for that, I would say specifically looking for a bachelor's or an associate's is going to be your best bet. But the point is, there are so many ways to avoid debt. There are so many ways to avoid getting yourself in these sticky situations where you're not able to save money, where you're constantly having to pay people out, when you're constantly having to dip into your savings account. And so you just have to look at life differently. Instead of thinking that debt is just a part of life, start to think that debt is something that is avoidable in life. Now, there are, again, certain situations that can be difficult. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the day-to-day expenses, the day-to-day choices that you are making that are harming your finances. Once you start to believe and think that you can go through life without getting into deep doo-doo debt, go through life without having to suffer and pay some money back all the time, you will literally start to see opportunities to do things differently. You could think, I can only get my car through making payments and having to do da-da-da-da. No, instead you start to look at it differently. You're like, let me see where I can find used cars at. Let me see, how do I know if a used car is good to drive? You start to think differently. You start to look at other options. Again, with the whole college example, instead of looking at it and being like, I have to pay X amount a year, it starts to be lowered. I know for me, I got reached out by a college and it was like $75,000 a year. And I was like, y'all have lost your ever-loving mind over a piece of paper. Because I wasn't like angry, but I was just like, what about scholarships? And she was like, oh, you can get it for as cheap as, most students get it for as low as $25,000 a year. And I'm like, oh, in some places I could get a house with that money, $100,000. And usually the average student doesn't graduate in 4 years. It's normally 5. So $125,000, I could be living the high life somewhere else with that money. And again, most people, all these colleges are aware that you don't have that money, so you end up going in debt and you end up having to pay way more than, in this case, $125,000 back. But you don't have to look at that and say, oh, that's my only option. You can look at different routes. When you start to believe that you can go through life without getting yourself in debt, you start to look at different routes. On top of this, you want to have that urgency, not only that lack of comfortability of going into debt, looking at life like you don't have to go into debt, but you want to have an urgency to get out of debt. If you have a ton of credit cards and you know that you can pay it back, but you just choose not to, don't do that, okay? Put down the McDonald's, put away the Chick-fil-A, go and spend that money on paying back that debt. Because a lot of people have a lack of urgency to pay it back. They could, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait until they've paid double the amount that they were actually in debt in because of all the interest that ended up getting tacked onto it. So have an urgency to get rid of it. Just because it doesn't look that bad right now, don't get so comfortable to be in it, because it can get bad. And if you continue to allow yourself to feel comfortable in it, in the future, you can end up getting yourself into a lot of trouble, into a lot of deep debt, because you allowed yourself to get so comfortable to the point where you're now even more comfortable to go deeper into debt and deeper and deeper and deeper. Debt can be utilized, but for most people in most situations, it is not a good idea. If you are a business, that is a different conversation, but you are not a business. So I need you to put down the credit card. I need you to stop maxing it out. I need you to stop looking at life like that is the only option. And I need you to start looking at things as you're going to pay it in full. You're going to make it happen. You are going to pay for everything that you need to pay for. And if you cannot afford it, you will wait. Because debt is sucking more money out of you than what you know. And if you actually looked into how much people are spending in debt, there are people that will die with their student loans. There are people that will die in debt. That is not the life that you want, so you need to nip it in the bud now. Thank you for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you did, and if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. Make sure to take care of yourself fully, physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, and all the other ways. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.